What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Hashtag release the Snyder Cut. This is going to be a very short chat before you can say, boo, it's done. Psalms 124 says, if it hadn't been for the Lord on our side, Israel, say it again. If it hadn't been for the Lord on our side, when men rose up against us, when they had swallowed us up quick, when their wrath was kindled against us, when the waters had overwhelmed us, when the stream had gone over our soul, when the proud waters had gone over our soul, if it hadn't been for the Lord on our side, we would not have escaped. Our soul escaped as a bird out of the snare of the fowlers. The snare is broken and we escaped. Our help is in the name of the Lord who made heaven and earth. Man, a lot of times the enemy will try and attack you within or without. That is, he's going to try and attack you through your mind or through other people influencing, trying to shape your mind. And it's interesting because what we're going to talk about, this particular scenario, as you can see from the title, has to do with that. How one man externally influenced another man's mind. So, without further ado, the question that was posed in BVS is, why did Superman say Martha instead of my mother? Right? And there's the actual scene here. Batman got his boot on Superman's throat. And Superman forces himself and says, you're letting him kill Martha. Batman's like, why'd you say that name? What's this? Why'd you say that name? And he says, find him, save Martha. Now, the first thing is, and this is just intuitive common sense. If someone's boot is on your throat, almost breaking your windpipe, you can't breathe, you're strangled, or someone's strangling you, which is easier to say, Martha or my mother? My mother's like, what, 3 syllables? Martha's like 2. That's the first thing. All right. It's just natural common sense, right? But the other reason was because just as how we're just speaking about evil, wicked men, whether within, some thoughts that are negative and evil, or literally somebody outside trying to influence your mind to do evil, either way, it's about manipulation of the mind. So I'm going to show you the other reason why Superman said Martha. All right. If you do recall this dialogue between Superman and Lex Luthor on top of the top of Luthor, LexCorp, on top of LexCorp. If you do remember that conversation, this is pretty much the root of why. In fact, in BVS, Martha's name is not said. We see it, but it's not said. At least Martha Kent's name. We see Martha Wayne's name, but Martha Kent's name is not said until this moment. Okay, so let's go through it really quickly. The Superman says, I'm just zooming in here. You think I'll fight him? That's Batman for you. He says that to Lex Luthor. As Lex Luthor says, fight night, black versus blue. You're going to fight him. You're going to have to go up and fight Batman, right? So Superman says, you think I will fight him for you? And Lex Luthor responds, yes, I do. I think you will fight for that special lady in your life. So Supes says to him, she's safe on the ground. How about you? And of course, that person he's talking about is Lois Lane, who Lex Luthor threw off of LexCorp. And Lex Luthor says, close. But I'm not talking about Lewis. Every boy's special lady is his mother. And to me, that was a eureka moment because two very interesting things that are introduced here. Even though we saw Supes' mother get kidnapped, we hadn't thought why she got kidnapped. And now we were able to find out the why of that movement. I found very interesting. And then Lex Luthor flashes images of Superman's brutalized mother. She's been beaten up, and you can see here, not very good. And if you look at her forehead, there's just some words on her forehead. So he shows Superman those pictures. And what happens to Superman? Where does Superman go into? He goes into shock, right? He actually pulls back. He was moving towards Lex Luthor as returning. When he saw the pictures, he pulled back. He was in shock. And that they tried to create that dramatic effect. Superman is in shock. And then Lex Luthor, proud that he is their shock Superman, says, Martha, Martha, Martha. This is the very first time in BVS or in Man of Steel someone has spoken Martha Kent's name. You can go ahead and look through Man of Steel and BVS. You will not see anyone speak his name until Lex Luthor speaks Martha Kent's name. Now we heard Martha Wayne's name spoken in the beginning by Thomas Wayne. But now the person who speaks Martha Wayne's name, Martha Kent's name, is a villain, Lex Luthor. It's very interesting. He says, Martha, Martha, Martha. And then he says, now the mother of a flying demon must be a witch. And here you can see Superman's face. He's totally lost it right now. He's like watching Lex Luthor. There's multiple emotions going through him. The first one is he's shocked that Lex Luthor could even dare try to touch his mother. The second thing that's going through his mind, of course, he's probably thinking of killing him as well at this point in time. But the second thing that's going through his mind right now is simply the shock of seeing his mother. So he's kind of transfixed. You can see his eyes are open big. You can see he's transfixed right now. And then Lex Luthor says, what's the punishment for witches? Ah, yes, death by fire. And he starts to toss the pictures of Superman's mother at him, directly at his face, like he's straight in his face with it. And he's laughing. And Superman falls to the ground. You can see him bowing there as he's looking at the pictures. And in fact, you see Superman hold up one of the Polaroids of the pictures of his mother. And you can see him just very gingerly holding up the picture. You can tell he is right now, he's lost. Okay. He doesn't know what to do. He's kind of lost right now because he has mixed emotions, I'm pretty sure. And I'm sure all of us do. But right now he's just in such shock because there's his mother, and he just this is the whole point behind him being Clark Kent and that people not knowing Clark Kent. So his mother and father and his family wouldn't be affected. Lois Lane, you know, and so, you know, now the revelation of what Jonathan Kent said to him about, you know, people hate what they don't understand. It's literally personally hitting him on a personal level. This human here before him, Lex Luthor, has found out his secret identity and is able to attack him where it hurts the most, his mother. You know how Superman feels about his mother from what you saw in Man of Steel, where General Zod was threatening Superman's mother, and he went berserk on General Zod, right? And he just lost it, right? So what happened here? As soon as he caught himself, he said, "Where is she?" And he's ready to obliterate Lex Luthor there. Okay? He's ready to kill him. Which makes sense. This is one way to trip off Superman. Mess with his mother. And Lex Luthor finishes it off by saying, I wouldn't let them tell me. If you kill me, Martha dies. And if you fly away, Martha so dies. But if you bring me the head of the bat, Martha lives. And Superman is completely under Lex Luthor's control. He knows this already. And Lex Luthor comes up to him and says, there. Now God bends to my will, right? It was one of the most brilliant performances by Jesse Eisenberg, not only mixing humor in there, but the humor, it reminds me of a Chucky film. For those of you who know Child's Play, Chucky's humor is chilling because as he's laughing and it seems comical, and it really is a funny moment, it's also graphically violent and scary. And this is the aspect of Lex Luthor I find chilling. And even though I hated the character throughout the movie, and again, villains are not really necessary to be loved, there were such strong emotional things that just irked me, like his very flamboyant humor. And, you know, it's very out there, kind of edgy, kind of stupid, klutzy. He's kind of clumsy and stuff, but yet he's a mastermind. And the bombing told me, don't mess with this guy. He's a prick, but you can't mess with him. And he reminded me of certain professors I knew in a certain university I was in. You know, they look like dorks. They look stupid. They even behave kind of wacky, but they're really evil. I didn't need it all. And Jesse Eisenberg was able to pull off that evil twist to Lex Luthor and just creep up on you and really get you scared. That was his great performance. I think this is Jesse Eisenberg's greatest performance in terms of his conducting of himself in this movie came out at these final moments of the film. And so he says this, and this is the profound impact that happened on Superman. So as Superman tried to explode to deal with the mourning, the loss, the drama that's going through his mind, Lex Luthor basically tethers him on a string and says, you can't touch me. You can't touch me, brother. And he even warns him after that. And then he comes back with a sort of soothing, so he tries to soothe him a bit, and then he just slaps him again, you know, with words like mother of God and stuff like that. And he literally had vitriol when he talked about the mother of a flying demon, showing that he does not like Superman. He doesn't like him. And so it's one of those moments which brings about a mental, it's almost like post-traumatic stress disorder that Batman had. Superman literally mentally was beaten over the head. And like I said before, in Psalms 124, you know, if it hadn't been for the Lord on our side, we would be beaten down by such people. And we still are in this world where we are controlled by such people, and they kind of manage the media and they manage the knowledge information gap. And you know, people still go through certain channels which are really archaic, you know, in so many different arenas. You know, gasoline engines are archaic now. It's really the electric engine, which is going to be more superior in the future. You know, we've learned that certain things in healthcare are archaic. People still use them, but they're very, very ineffective, and they're much more streamlined methods of healthcare. I can go on and on and on. The politics of the world today is archaic. I can go on and on and on about certain systems that have been kept in place to manipulate your mind. But, and you know, even the way how people proceed to conduct their lives is archaic. But nonetheless, the point behind it is that in this particular scene, Lex Luthor owns Superman. He controls him. And in fact, to emphasize that point, when Superman comes down from the top of the building and he sees Lois, he says, I got to get him on my side or else he has to die. Superman feels mentally in bondage because Lex Luthor has the leverage he needs, which is his mother. And so Superman at this point in time cannot call his mother's name because it's so ingrained in it. When you take something visually and shock someone with that, or you shock them physically with something, and on top of that you beat them over the head with verbal language and verbal assaults, you control them. And this is the method. It's called, it's what they use to control dogs as well, to reward them with certain things. This is the Pavlovian. This is a Pavlovian way of controlling a human being. And this is what Lex Luthor basically implemented. He beat down Superman to control him. And then he provided him with, if you do this, this will be your positive response. Like if you hear the bell, then you know it's food. And so he's given him the signal, you know, you kill the bat, bring the bat head back up to me, Martha will live, you know. And so this is what Lex Luthor used to control Superman, and literally messed up his mind. So that when Superman ends up seeing Batman, he's not speaking in a language that's his own. His mind frame from the last shock is Martha. Besides that, it's easier to say, but it's Martha that's on his mind. And basically, if you think about it, Superman tried to kill Batman. He was going at him really, really hard. After he realized he couldn't get Batman to persuade it, he tried to go at him and actually kill him. Okay, that's what he started going really hard at Batman. And this is what Lex Luthor gave him. He gave him these options. And so in the end, he tried again to persuade Batman in his dying breaths, you know, with you're letting him kill Martha. He was very desperate, obviously, and he was trying to tell Batman. And the thing that got Batman wasn't just Martha, even though he did respond by saying, why did you say that name? It was what Superman said about Martha. He said, you're letting him kill Martha. That threw Batman. He's like, what does that mean? Because in Batman's mind, Martha's already dead. She's already been killed. So what are you talking about? And then he continues. See, if Superman just said Martha, wouldn't mean anything. But he said you're letting him kill Martha. And then on top of that, he follows up with the redemption, which is find him, save Martha. And that is what you remember. That's Superman's quest. He wants to find whoever has Martha that's beaten up. And so Superman passes that on. Again, it's Lex Luthor's words. If you're paying attention, it's Lex Luthor's words Superman is saying all the way to Batman. Find him, save Martha is Lex is saying, I don't know. I don't know where she is. They wouldn't let me tell me. They wouldn't tell me. Right? So it's a follow-up on that. So that's why Superman actually said Martha. That's the essence of it. In other words, Lex Luthor said Martha and shocked Superman. So Superman said Martha. That's the long and short of it. All right. It's not rocket science. But apparently people can't see that. For reasons unknown to me, they try to pick at Batman v Superman. I don't get it, but it is what it is. And they say, well, why did Superman say Martha instead of my mother? I gave you two reasons. The most obvious one is my mother takes a lot of more energy to do. And Superman's pretty much getting strangled, okay, under Batman's boot. Yes, his skin's very tough and his throat is very tough, but that doesn't mean he's not getting strangled, okay? And the second reason, obviously, is because Lex Luthor shocked him by showing him his mother and using the words, instead of your mother, he says Martha instead. To let Superman know, I know who your mother is. He didn't just say your mother. No. Lex wanted Superman to know, I know everything about you. I know you, because he calls him Clark Joseph Kent, right? Or Kal-El. He wants Clark to know, I know who you are. Not only do I know who you are, I know the people who you love. Okay? That was savage. Okay? And so that's why he said, Martha, 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 like a real mobster. Okay? It was savage. Okay? And he knew he was destroying Superman. First, he showed him the Polaroid. He was like, every boy's, he called him a boy, by the way, every boy's special lady is his mother. And then he flicks the Polaroids. And he doesn't just show him one, he shows him several. Like a magician. Okay? That messes with Superman backs off one time. And then he starts his spiel. Okay? That's he knows he's mentally traumatizing Superman. Okay? He knows what he's doing. That's what you call an ultimate chess player. And he affected Superman's mind. Go back to Psalms 124 again. It says, if it hadn't been for the Lord on our side, we'd have been destroyed, because the devil is a master at manipulation of human minds. Okay, he did it with Eve. He knows he can do it over and over again. And if it's not for the Lord, man, we would be annihilated. And Superman was almost annihilated. But were it not for the fact that he was able to reach Batman by that selfless act. If you think about it, that selfless act was a God act. It was God. Because of his selfless act and desperation to save his mother, Batman paused in trying to kill him. And it sent Batman back to trying to save his own mother, his failure. And that pause was just enough for Lewis to come through and clarify that the Martha that is being spoken about is not your mother, Batman, because he doesn't know that, but it's actually his mother. Right? So, goodness and always having a good intent sometimes can get you off the hook. God can get you off the hook from being destroyed. And I thought that was awesome. All right, let me see what you guys are saying in the chat section, if you're saying anything at all, and then I'm gone. I'm out of here. All right. Whoop. Ooh, I didn't expect all of that. Okay, hold on a second. Goat Films, what's up, bro? What is up? We watched BVS last night. I love this scene. Yeah, it's an awesome scene, man. It is an awesome, awesome scene. Batman views Superman as an alien, but when he mentions saving his mother, he views him as a man. How Batman said you were never even a man, which leads to Superman telling him about Martha. It's the irony. It's a Zack Snyder film. The irony of the situation is what's so interesting. Right after he says he's not even a man, he learns that he is a man. Yeah. Go films. It's also cool how Superman really thought he was going to get killed, so his last words would have been about saving his mother's life. Shows how unselfish Superman is and how he cares about saving others. Yep, that's basically Superman in a nutshell. He cares about others before himself, which is why at the end of BVS, he died. He died because he was trying to save Lois Lane, which is his personalization of the world, which he claims as his world. He chose Earth as his world in Man of Steel, and then he says it. He literally claims it. You know, no matter what happens, this is my world. And I thought that was very awesome that he actually literally embraced the world for its good and its bad, and that's deep. You know what I mean? DJ Lost and Found says this connects to the character he learned from Jonathan Kent. That was a great video. Yeah, man. Thanks a lot, man. Because I think a lot of people constantly say, well, why does Soup say Martha instead of my mother? And I'm like, this ain't rocket science. I mean, first of all, like I said before, it's harder to say my mother than Martha. Just the form mother is harder than ah. It's easier to say ah than oh. I mean, if you want to get really technical and specific, but just do yourself a favor. Take your hand, squeeze your neck right now, like I'm doing. Try and choke yourself, okay? And then try and say my mother, and then try and say Martha. Which one's easier to do? Just try and do it. I mean, it's common sense. I mean, that's the first point. That's the easiest way to explain it. Like if somebody says, "Oh, why didn't he say Martha instead of my mother?" I say, "Okay, hold on a second. Let me put my hand around your neck and choke you, and then while I'm choking you, try and say my mother, and then try and say Martha." That's basically it. So, this ain't rocket science. It's not like, after he was stopped choking, Batman stopped choking him, and Batman, lifted him back up. He said, "My mother needs me," right? You remember that? Yeah, of course, he's not getting choked, right? So, this is really the most obvious thing is if you're being choked, you're trying to say as few words as possible and the easiest words to say as possible. This is just common sense. I'm saying it because I evaluate the situation, but I'm just saying, anybody, if you're about to die, the first words you're going to say is like, "Oh God," right? You're not going to say like, "Oh, my Father, Lord Jesus Christ." You're not going to say all of that. You know what I'm saying? This is just like common sense. The second thing is, so the shortest syllabled word you could possibly say, you're going to say. You might even say, "Oh God." You might just say God, right? Or "Oh," right? The next thing, which is not as obvious, but it's there and it's just pretty clear as day, and that's why I showed you guys, is that Lex Luthor mentally messed with Superman's head, and that's why Superman said Martha. He was traumatized, and he was still in trauma. Okay, and it was a traumatic situation he was dealing with Batman. He had to face him, fight him, and he was about to die. So obviously, when somebody's in a traumatic situation, and they've been traumatized before, they're going to act through the trauma. And that's why he said Martha. He couldn't even say my mother, okay? It was Lois Lane that came through and tried to help him. So clearly he couldn't say my mother, otherwise he would. And he couldn't say a whole bunch of stuff either. Even though Batman had him, and Batman obviously wasn't smart enough to move his foot. So Batman obviously was in a traumatized state himself. And so he was still choking Superman while he's saying, "Why do you say that name? Give him some air so he can breathe, so he can say something." Nope. So they both were traumatized, and that's why that happened. This is not rocket science, right, folks? This is actually what would happen in real life. I just recently got myself involved in a scuffle, and I can tell you, you're not thinking straight, okay? You're not thinking straight while you do these things, so that's what happened. Okay. Yeah. So shout out to you, DJ Lost and Found. It was good to see you guys. I got to get out of here right now. Today is Independence Day for us. So it's a liberation, freedom. Hopefully we are freeing our minds. I know that Labor Day is going to be on Monday for you guys. So I hope you guys enjoy your day. I know you guys are busy at work. So I just wanted to share this video with you guys and share it with other people as well. Share this video because it's ridiculous when people say, well, first of all, the people who say Martha as if that is a low point of Batman v Superman. I don't understand it. I honestly don't. I've been trying my best for the last 2 years to understand why that's funny or why that's a joke. And then they come up and they say, well, it's funny because they stopped fighting because their mothers had the same name. And I'm like, and why is that a problem? Like, help me understand why that is bad. That's clever. And that's nothing bad about that. Their mothers have the same name. So, and the second thing that doesn't, I don't understand why it's funny or it's a joke, is they say, well, Superman and Batman found out their mothers had the same name, so they started being chum buddies. And I'm like, no, Superman doesn't know that Batman's mother is also named Martha. He's not aware of that. And he's not aware of that even to his death. When he died, he did not know that. He was only speaking about his mother, and they had a conversation about his mother. So again, you know, it is what it is. Anyway, guys, I hope you guys have a great one. I'm out of here. Stay blessed and share this video, would you? Thank you. Bye.